Oh, welcome to Five Lemons Laughing, everyone. We're so happy to have Amanda back and
Yay.
Drusilla back. Yay. And so we're complete. We're done. We're all here. And we're on our third episode of the series Standing in Your Power. So this is a four-part series where we're going to talk about living unapologetically in our truth, not later, but right now. And in the first episode, we tuned into the wisdom of our bodies. And the second episode, we laid down all the heavy weight of feeling like we're not enough and those old stories. So today, we're going to take another step, and that's claiming the story we want to live from this moment on. And so here's the truth. You are the character, the main character of your own story, and you're the author. You get to make it happen. And we're going to talk about claiming the script you're living now, not the one someone handed you, not the one that says you're too much or you're not enough, but the one where you get to be fierce, kind, radiant, and unapologetic. Woohoo! So we have some questions. I will ask the questions and then we will start talking. I love these questions. Number one, if you were writing the story of your life today, what role would you give yourself? Love it. Like heroine, Wonder Woman, guru, I don't know. Number two, what words, labels, or scripts no longer fit? And what new language reflects the truth now? And number three, how does claiming authorship of your story change the way you show up every day? All right, take it away.
Oh, so easy.
Mhm. Mhm. Claiming authorship. You're muted, Melissa.
Oh, shoot. I was going to say, I don't know how far back we did this episode where my wisdom is my power. We came up with that. Penny helped me come up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say like the new label for myself would be heroine of my own story. I don't know why it just
like
popped in my head, but I do love that.
Yeah, I like that too. I want to backtrack a little bit. So this concept of being author of your story, are we just living in a fantasy? Like, what does that even mean? And how does that even work?
Oh, I think, well, I am learning that my story is my responsibility. It is wherever I choose to get my information from, my identity from, the past that I choose to live out or choose to do differently. Um, like I have realized in the last couple of weeks how often I go back to this old story and I pull it into the present with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't even realize it's a choice. It's not like I think we think I'm going to choose to have positive vibes. I'm going to choose to live positively. I'm going to think abundantly, that kind of thing. But you really also choose taking a negative stance, taking a old stance, taking a victim stance.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm so done with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes great willingness, to borrow from A Course in Miracles, to be willing to take that level of ownership over your life and your story, especially if you judge that you don't have a particularly good life and like it's been a hard life or things have happened to you. And so the concept of taking authorship and ownership over rewriting your story for some people might feel a little daunting or scary, or uh, some people might just flat out reject that idea because it's like, I'm not responsible for this bullshit. You know what I mean? So it's a bold leap for a lot of people, especially if it's a new concept for them. I think for most of us here, this is not a new concept for us, but I remember thinking in the beginning, learning like the A Course in Miracles premise, I'm responsible for everything I experience. It took a little unraveling to get to the point of being willing to accept that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. When I that's a really great point, Morgan. When I did my first fourth step in Al-Anon, it's all about taking a personal inventory. And I don't know if I've shared with you before, but I could write down everybody I was resentful at. It was easy. I had a long list. And actually, in each person, I had a long list of resentments, for each person.
Subheaders.
And pardon me?
Subheaders. Like your subheaders.
Yeah. This person. Yeah. And then so it was like who I was resentful at, what they did
to you.
And the third column was what was my part. And I am telling you, I honestly, at that time in my life, like 11 years ago, I could not figure out what was my part because they had done it to me. And so it was really hard for me. And I leaned on a lot of members that I knew had done the fourth step before me and asked them, like, how did you figure it out? And I leaned on my sponsor. And then it took me, honest to God, it took me about a month to even begin to start seeing that I have a part in every one of those resentments. Sometimes it was small, sometimes it was big, but I did have a part. But so when you were saying that, Morgan, it just reminded me that, yeah, I have a part in everything that I create. And it's taken me, it's a process for me. Some days I still want to go into that blame game and blame others for what's happening. But yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. And I think we've done episodes on this topic. So we can, shift the focus back to claiming our power. But I just wanted to acknowledge, in case there are any listeners out there who are like, what? No way. I'm not in charge here. You know what I mean? It can feel scary, but on the other hand, it can feel very empowering and exciting if you're willing to take that responsibility and recognize that you alone have the power to shift your story and your life experience.
That is true.
So, Melissa, what do you mean by you want to be the heroine of your story?
So that would lead me into the second question, which is, what is a word that doesn't describe my story anymore, or that I want to lay down or let go of? And one would be victim. So, I think this ties into what Penny was saying and what Morgan was saying, in that I lived for a long time thinking things were happening to me. And I felt like a pinball in a pinball machine, ding, 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 just bouncing around, people flipping those little flippers and bouncing me all over the place. I had no responsibility. I just go to the next bad experience or bad self-esteem or that kind of thing. And so for me, it would be just moving away from a victim story and really being the author of my story. And that heroine would be that I'm the hero of the story. The star, like, not in an arrogant way, but in the way, I think I've mentioned this before. I had a real epiphany thinking about not ending up on my deathbed regretting my life and doing what I wanted to do in this lifetime for me. And one of the things I wanted to do was move to Europe. And so, that took a lot of courage, and I did it. And there were a shit ton of reasons, shit ton of things that could have kept me a victim. Staying in the States, I didn't have enough money, or we don't have a retirement, I got to keep working, all that kind of stuff. And I chose courage over those things. So for me, it's
you're doing it.
Courage. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're there right now in Europe.
Looking like it. Better best. Looking very European.
Looking very European. I hope that doesn't sound arrogant. I honestly,
that is such a typical female response.
Yeah.
It sounds to me, Melissa, like you are writing your story. Doesn't sound arrogant at all. You're choosing it.
Yeah. And I think I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited to share it because it did take courage, and it works. Like, I feel a fulfillment. from following my heart. And so I hope that for everyone. I want that to be for everyone.
Yeah. And honestly, and I could be totally wrong. You girls, I know will call me out if I am, but if you were writing the story, going back to that first question, what role would you give yourself? I hope everyone's answer is the heroine of the story or the hero of the story. I mean, we are all on a hero's journey. Like, hopefully you don't want to be the villain in your story.
But you could be the lover, you could be the romantic, you could be the, horse whisperer. I don't know what you want to be.
Well, I would just like to chime in and say, well, one thing that came to my mind is that, in the first couple of episodes, we talked about getting rid of the stories, right? So we just have to be mindful that we're talking about going from illusion to reality now, the real story, right?
So right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and the real story of our lives is, like you said, Morgan, that none of us are victims. We do own the story. And for me personally, I remember when we first started, we're 2 years in now, ladies, right? Or 3. Like,
going into our 3rd year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is our 3rd year. We are in our 3rd year.
Wow.
Yes.
Total heroes of our own podcast, people.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember in the beginning, I talked about that I felt like the word that came up for me was being a sage.
Mm.
And I didn't even really understand what that meant at the time, but that's just what came up for me. But to answer the question now, what it feels like is that I truly would like to be the light of the world.
Oh, love that.
And yes, if I had to write a story about who I am, I just would love to be able to zoom into wherever there's darkness and pain and bring light to it,
So beautiful.
Yes.
Yes. And, with that and knowing that that's what I want to be, I am constantly challenged because that's the only way you can step into the story in your fullness is to remove all the barriers, right? Is that I am constantly presented with people that want the light. And it's incumbent upon me to figure out how to be the light in the worst of situations and the worst of times. And I'm being ultimately challenged.
To claim your position.
Yes.
Mm. Yeah. You want to give us an example?
Of course I do. I'd love to. My goodness. So this week, and I'll start with a couple of weeks ago, it's been over about a month ago, get a call from a lady that she works in another industry, but she loves to write and she's an amazing writer. And she calls me and she's like, "Oh, I have this amazing script. I want you to read it and tell me what you think." And it is an absolutely amazing story. And so we talked and she was like, "Well, would you mind being an agent for me and helping me to get my story produced?" And so I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I knew there was this pitch fest coming up this week. And so I worked with her to pull together the pitch and to position herself for it. And, she kept asking me for the contract to represent her. And I never put it together. For some reason, I didn't. It wasn't as if I didn't think about it. There was a part of me that intentionally did. And so we went to the pitch fest and she was set because a lot of the people that were on the panel, and there was a list of maybe 14 people, there were only 4 people in the room. But it turned out to be an amazing pitch. And I just say it was perfectly aligned. And all the players in the room came together with a proposal of how to produce the film. It's an international film, $3 to $5 million budget is what I projected, right? So this is no small feat. And so, so we basically left with a verbal deal on the table. So then we leave and had time to make some adjustments to the pitch, some adjustment that they asked for and made to the pitch. And then so that was on Friday. And then on Monday, she and I just kind of reconvened and started to talk about how we wanted to package it up and get back to them. And and so some of the things that I suggested, she got really worked up. And which, if you're into the arts or anything that you have personal to you, you feel attacked if people make suggestions. It wasn't suggestions about the project, it was suggestions about how to pitch it, how to go about, the next step. And so that's when I got cursed at. I wouldn't say she was cursing me out, but she was cursing about a lot of things. And then she went on to say, that's why I kept asking you to put the contract in place in the beginning. And basically I just ended the conversation and said, I don't want to be a part of a conversation like this. And, where there's language being used like this. And I think this is just unprofessional. So I don't, I'm going to just get off the phone right now. And so, so that was Monday. And today, for those out there who, you're not aware, but this is Wednesday that we're recording. And I haven't spoken to her since. She did send me an email and apologized for her language. And so I am now trying to discern my next steps for remaining in the story, remaining in my truth of the story that I want to live, rather and lose all attachment to it, if that is what the outcome is, and that's the bottom line. That's my only choice, is to show up and love and to release the attachment to it, no matter what I've done to this point.
Did you feel like she was trying to put a role onto you that you were unwilling to play?
Well, a part of what came out of it was that she felt empowered by the meeting. And now her goal initially was, I just want to probably sell the story and let someone else make it. And then she came back and she had all these conversations. And now her thought was, no, I want to be a part of making the film and making the story. And so things shifted for her. So she said to me, well, maybe what you want, the role you want to play, maybe that's shifted too. And for me, it didn't, because I know how this industry can be. And I said, no, that's why I didn't want to put a contract out in the beginning. I want to understand the nature of how it is to work with you and where you're trying to go with your story before I commit. She didn't necessarily like that. And, but I have to stand firm in my truth, because I'd already seen a part of our interaction that I wasn't fond of, frankly. And so I still need to stand in my truth and say, yes, that's a lot of money and that's a big deal, but does it really matter to me right now? And, again, I have to release the attachment to that story and that situation.
I love that you're choosing your peace and serenity over dollar signs or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I have to. This is a big, big lesson. This is really big for me.
But what
Lord knows, I would love the money and probably the accolades and the credits that would go with a story this big, right? But yeah.
Amanda?
Yeah, Drusilla, what I also hear is like, if your new story is to be love, you brought a person into a space where her power expanded. So like that. So for me, you did that for her. You did represent that and allowed her to be more of what she is, and get down to giving her the authority to really speak her truth. So that's a big deal, Drusilla. So you were living that for yourself and for her. And that is rewriting your story and helping someone else rewrite theirs. I just want to point that out. That's amazing. And, as we all learn and grow, we have to, the second question, these questions just flow great because it's not only for you, you up leveled yourself, you helped to up level this person. And so it's up to her to, decide then your story was amazing. So what no longer fits, right? So like this next step, this path no longer fits me, so she gets to decide next what words, labels, and scripts no longer fit for her. And you get to decide what doesn't fit for you. And you get to choose how you want to move forward, which is amazing. But what's really funny is like the kick in the, it could be a big kick in the pants is what if spirit is like, you're not done lifting this woman up.
That is the bigger scare.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
So I'm just throwing that up in the air. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful assessment, Amanda. Part of it I hadn't thought of. Mm-hmm. And there's fear that says, this is being presented as more heavy lifting. Are you up for the assignment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you didn't, and you said she wasn't cussing you out, but you didn't tolerate the verbal abuse or lack of respect or whatever was being expressed on that phone call. Like that is you being the light of the world, knowing your worth and not willing to let this woman pile on her negative karma, if you believe in that concept. Like sometimes standing in the light and being the love in a situation is, saying, nope, I'm not being a part of this. I'm not taking that energy from you, however you want to say it. So I already see that you are being a teacher to her in some ways as she is to you. And maybe there's more of that to come for both of you. I mean, the relationship will continue as long as it is useful for both of your awakening. We don't really have a say in that.
That is true, Morgan. So true.
And Drusilla, I see you really standing in your power no matter what was going on. You decided to take a stand. And I love that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I think for myself, just so the audience knows that I'm not leaving the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
The next thing for me is to have faith that no matter what I decide, that I am deciding it with the Holy Spirit in mind and with the guidance from Source, and that it can't be wrong. Mm-hmm. It cannot be wrong.
And I think you said something really important, which is letting go of the attachment to a certain outcome or to be right and her wrong, or she was bad for yelling at you and you're good and all that kind of stuff. Like just staying really present with it. And you just said you have faith of that it's going to unfold the right way. And you took care of yourself. And also you brought such a loving presence. It would have not maybe had gone so well if you started swearing back at her. Like you modeled that. That is the light of the world.
I did feel that in that moment. I was in my watcher mode at the same time thinking, oh my God, Drusilla, oh my God, stay in there. Wait, stay in there with this. You don't want to go there to that other Drusilla that could have shown up. Yeah, so I did recognize that in the moment, and I gave myself credit in that moment until I was off that phone, and then I was like, yes, yeah,
beautiful. Amazing work.
Yeah, and I love that in your story, as you're claiming authorship and giving yourself the role of light of the world. This isn't about like, you could have given yourself the role of, super acclaimed film producer and director. And that's a totally different direction. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you're anchoring your role in your story in truth and service to the light versus into worldly things. And then those worldly things may or may not unfold, but so you being the light of the world isn't contingent upon any sort of outcome or expectation. Does that make sense?
Great point.
Mhm.
It does. Yeah, well, I agree 100%.
Maybe you being the light of the world, maybe you will be the light of the world, and that will show up by you making a ton of very influential movies that, broadcast light in that way. Or maybe it will show up in these intimate one-on-one relationships and encounters where you have opportunities to be a blessing in smaller ways. But A Course in Miracles says there is no big or small. So,
But isn't that the exciting part? Being the light of the world, you have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, you wouldn't anyways, but like, how cool, like, how is this going to unfold? Who else has a role?
mm.
No one. You guys could just stay the old roles, just keep it, not do it. It's all right.
My role is a lot like, I wouldn't say, I don't know, like a lot when Drusilla said what she was like, that's, because I remember a long time ago, right when I was out of college, reading that book, Bringers of the Dawn.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I am going to be that light in the world. Exactly like you said, Drusilla. Like, I want to have my love and my joy just radiate so strongly that it just reverberates everywhere. So I'm totally down with that. I don't know how it shows. I'm not sure how that's going to show up. I keep trying different things and some things work, mostly things just fall away on the wayside, but we're going to see. I'm not trying to attach anything to it. I just want to live every day just happy.
Yeah.
Maybe not happy is the right word, right? Because I just broke my shoulder and that wasn't happy, but doesn't depress me. It just is a thing. Mm-hmm.
Is there a word that doesn't fit anymore?
I got rid of the word victim a long time ago. Like, that just feels yucky to me. The whole victim mentality, I just can't do that anymore. I will take 100% responsibility for everything in my life.
Nice.
Yeah. And so what really reflects my truth now is authenticity. Like, really just being present, being authentic. And another thing that I have to let go of is the fear of speaking up. Like, Drusilla, when you said you got off the phone, I'm like, I mean, that like tweaked me a little bit, because that is something that we as, leaders, or, since we are doing a podcast about this, so we are leaders in this, is actually speaking speaking up, which is, that's something this year, my voice, finding my voice was, one of my things this year. So I'm so glad that you're doing that, Drusilla.
Hey, Amanda, you just reminded me of what my role is.
Yeah. Oh, tell me.
Yes.
I'm a leader of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my role.
You are.
Let's hear more.
Gosh, well, A Course in Miracles is all about shifting from fear to love, right? And I recognized I woke up at like 3 a.m. this morning and I couldn't go back to sleep. And I realized that I have this low grade worry operating underneath. And I realized I don't want that. And all these weird images came into my mind, and I kept saying, nope, that's not my story. Like my daughter and son-in-law are traveling abroad, and my younger daughter's going to go do some solo traveling abroad. And, some fears can come up, but I thought, no, that is not my story. And I think I've shared it on this podcast before, but I was on a spiritual journey, and I had done this spiritual surgery. It's kind of a long, drawn out story, but I'm just going to give you the Reader's Digest condensed version. And to recover from the surgery, even though it was a spiritual surgery, you had to rest for 24 hours with no interaction with anybody, no electronics, no reading, no nothing. You laid in bed and people brought you food and you ate, and that was it. And so my mind went freaking crazy. And I made up a lot of stories like my kids were dead and all this stuff. And so when the 24 hours was up, I had to, so when the story came into my mind, I said, no, that's not my story. I'm not accepting that story, because I think we have choice on the stories that come into our mind. And if we're going to focus on them, then they strengthen and they grow. Or so I have decided from this experience that I had with that when these stories that I know that's not my story, when that comes into my mind, I say that to myself often, no, that's not my story. And then I visualize what I do want. And so I was doing a lot of that this morning. But anyway, in that story I was just telling you, when the 24 hours was up, I went to the guide that I was with and I said, is it okay if I call home? I just need to call home. And she said, well, you get to decide, will this help you, will this help you move forward in your life, or will it, keep you back? And I go, well, it actually will help me move forward. And I called home and of course everybody was alive. But so it wasn't my story. And when I speak that out loud, sometimes I think that sounds a little crazy that that I have that much power, but I think I do. And so I'm going to believe that it's not my story when those crazy stories come into my head and horrible things are going to happen. And if it is my story, then I'll, the work that I'm doing, this emotional or spiritual bank that I'm building with every morning that I meditate and every time I stay in my loving heart and every time I'm a leader of love, then when sad things happen, I'll be able to handle them more peacefully and better. That's the only word that I could come up with. So, so I just say to myself, it's not my story if it's something that I really, really don't want.
Good tool. I think that's a really easy tool. I mean, just those thoughts float in and you just hold up the hand to them like, nope, that doesn't apply to me.
What about you, Morgan?
I don't know that there's one word that feels like that it answers the question. I'm feeling it's some kind of combination of what you've all said. I mean, heroine is definitely strong because I'm the one that put myself here in thinking that I was separate from God, and I'm the only one that can get myself out of here, back to God, back to truth, with all of you, but there is only one. So, I mean, definitely the heroine of the story, no longer a victim. Like you, Amanda, I set that role down a while ago, and certainly there are people who would try to suck me back into that role, and I get the little reminders often that I'm not interested in that story anymore. And each time I get invited back into that role, it's just a little reminder of how far I've come, that I'm not interested in that anymore. And my only goal is God, is awakening, is truth. There are worldly experiences that I would like to have, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to me is getting myself right and aligned with God and with truth, and bringing light, joy, peace, all of the universal qualities of God, grounding them here on earth, bringing about heaven on earth. So that's kind of a mystical way to respond, which, a lot of you have had similar responses as well. So if I can just remember that as my focus, then life would be so much easier, because none of the other stuff will matter. And yet it will all lock into place perfectly. So I guess how it means that I would show up each day, I'm coming back into this space of eager anticipation, excited anticipation for what is to come. Because knowing when you know that everything is unfolding for your good, when you know the story is already written, that you are already safe and at home, and you know the story has a happy ending, then why wouldn't you just be living in a state of constant gratitude and joyful anticipation for what is to come, what is unfolding?
Mm,
So that's how I'd
I
like to
love
share.
that, Morgan.
me too.
Especially the part that reminds us that the story is already written.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, Morgan, you can have the heroine title as well,
Thank you.
but
Sharon.
you're welcome. But but I also think I was like, she's like the joyful shaman, like the connector
Love
between
that.
heaven and earth, or like the love shaman or the joyful shaman.
I love that.
Yeah, but I was thinking, what is that connector between the heaven and earth? Is a shaman. So there you go.
I accept.
Good. All right. What do you think, Penny? It's time to wrap up.
Sure, we can do that. I was just looking at anybody have any other tools that might help people to stay in their light and in their power that haven't been shared? Like, what do you do, Melissa, to stay in your
Well,
heroine role?
Well, I did read this book recently, and it's been so helpful for me. And I'm going to tell you what it is. It is called Don't Believe Everything You Think. It's a tiny, tiny book, and it is so profound. Essentially, this is what it says, that everyone in the whole wide world has a thought, and then behind the thought, you have all this thinking. So I've talked about before on this podcast about the second arrow, and it's a Buddhist like teaching. The first arrow is the first thing that's happening in your life, and the second arrow is all the stuff you make up or you respond to, or all the other stuff around what happened in the first arrow. So, and he uses the second arrow concept in the book, and essentially, it's like you can stop at a thought. You can stop without making all that after thinking. The thinking part's what makes you crazy. So I have been really working with having a thought. And when I see all that racing stuff come in, I stop it. And Morgan talked about that earlier, just stopping the rest of those thoughts. And so in my journal and everything, I have written thought and then like a break and then thinking. And I just really keep it over here in the thought area.
That's amazing,
Nice.
Melissa.
Yeah.
Mine is similar to that. When I fell off my horse and fractured my shoulder, I was in a lot of pain, and pain brings presence. In a tip that's in one of our books, who's the person that does the levels?
Oh, David Hawkins.
Hawkins.
Mhm.
Right. So a tool that he uses with physical stuff, which is also mental stuff, is you go all the way into the pain, to the point of pain. Like you go all the way in it. And then from there's a realization of, I'm thinking there's this pain, but I am actually witnessing this pain. If I didn't witness this pain wouldn't be here. So it's and then to be able to back out of it and to be the witness of it. So that's something that is a great tool, not just for pain, but for anything. So like Melissa is talking about being, like, so here is a thought, and then here's all of the stuff that comes up around the thought, all the thinking madness, same thing. So for me, it's going into a witness, because that is a removal of the drama, the pain. It's being present, being the witness.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of those near-death experiences where people describe that they were out of their body and looking down on their body.
Mhm.
Love that. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
saying the tool, yes, to all that you have shared. And another tool that works for me is using the emotions as a compass for when I am thinking true thoughts or untrue thoughts. That's what our emotions are. They're a guidance system. So when I start to feel anxious, nervous, afraid, those emotions seem easier to redirect than like anger or somehow for me. But when I start to feel emotions where my nervous system feels dysregulated, to just use that as a reminder that I'm thinking something that is not true, and to try to find my way back to a state of gratitude and that excited anticipation for what's to come, like I mentioned earlier. Because if I'm in a state of worry or fear, I'm in the past. I'm not in the present, and I'm not in that state of trusting that everything is working together for my good and everything is unfolding perfectly. So, recognizing the signal that I'm not aligned with truth, and then shifting back to a state of gratitude, and that excited anticipation I can tap into with a prayer or with a, you know, deep desire of the heart practice, just reaffirming the deep desire of my heart is da 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 da, fill in the blanks over and over and over again. That's a practice that we learned from Jennifer Hadley, A Course in Miracles teacher, podcaster. So there's different little practices that can help bridge that gap, because it does feel a little bit like a gap when that emotional alarm first starts to go off.
Yep.
That, Morgan. I think it's worth reiterating. So, sounds like what you're saying. Every single time you have a feeling of, uncomfortableness, doubt, anxiety, then that is, I think the Course describes it as you must have made a wrong decision because you're choosing fear in that moment instead of love. Perfect. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Have anything else you want to add, Drusilla? Or is that good for you?
I think it's summed up. I mean, it all sounds like awareness to me, just being aware.
Yes.
You can't be in fear if you're aware that there's fearful thoughts coming through. So that creates the presence. But it's all the same as what you all just said.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Really beautiful. I actually remembered to do Post-its today. I forgot last week, Amanda. Can you believe it?
No.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I love Minnie's Post-its.
No.
Oh my gosh. Well, the very first thing that we talked about is to own your story, right? You just got to own your story. And if you stand in your light power, do that no matter what. And everything is unfolding for our good. And because the story is already written, and then, of course, I love it. Don't believe everything you think.
That's the best one.
Yeah. Just don't believe it. And just that's not your story when you think it. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's just been a joy to share our experiences and our journey with you. And as you move through your day, notice the story you're living. Is it one that expands you, or is it one that keeps you small? Remember, you hold the pen. I love that. Just reminds me of the song Unwritten by Natasha Bellingham or something like that. I just love that song. You hold the pen. The pages are blank, and you get to write down what comes next. You get to own your story. So thank you again for joining us. This is Five Lemons Laughing, where we laugh, we love, we live our truth out loud in this podcast. I love it. So until next time, just know that your transformation is our greatest joy. So until next time, have a really beautiful and blessed rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.